Good to see you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming out and sharing a bit of your time with us tonight. I'm Charles Moore. I think I've met most all of you. If I haven't, please afterwards, if you will, introduce yourself to me. I'd love to get to know you a little bit better, where you live, and that sort of thing. So thank you for coming. I know we all have lots of things that we could be doing, but you're here because you obviously care and you are seeking information. And we hope that when you leave here that you will at least be better informed than when you came, and that you'll have the information that you need. We've had a number of these. This administration has been in office since November of 2016, so about a year and a half, maybe not quite a year and a half. And I think we've had 3 or 4 of these town hall meetings. Generally, I will tell you, and it's one of the commitments that I made when I was running for mayor, is that I would have these face-to-face opportunities for you to get together, for us to get together, and to answer questions and to discuss whatever you wanted to discuss. And so all of the other town hall meetings prior to this one have been called, announced, and held without any agenda, meaning that you could ask anything that you want to ask. Everything was fair game. Doesn't mean that we'll have all the answers, but we'll at least listen and we'll try to find the answers for you if we don't have those. This one we announced, and we said it will have a focus on the tax referendum. I suspect that most all of you know that that was probably the general theme for tonight. We will still take other questions, but we expect that the bulk of our time, the next hour or so, will be spent responding, answering, asking questions about the tax referendum, and then anything else is fair game also. Because if you give really hard questions on other stuff, I've got 3 council members here and they get those, okay? And I want to introduce them to you now. 3 of our 5 council members are here. I appreciate them being here, and I appreciate their involvement, their support, the time that they give to the city. It's not just the meetings that you see them here on pre-council work sessions and on the council meetings twice a month. That's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. They get calls, they get emails, they respond, they have meetings and other things that they do, so they give a lot of time in service to the city, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate their efforts. So we'll start with our elder here, statesman Terry Bearden is here. Terry's been on the council, what, 3 terms now?
Yeah, 10 years so far.
All right, 3 terms now, so he actually, he is my councilman, represents our district, which is the 3rd, I get the numbers mixed up, 4th, 3rd district, 4th district. I get the numbers mixed up, I know the area, but kind of on the east side here in that way. We have our youngest one here, David Spivey.
Good evening.
David is District 2. Number 2. And that's this downtown area and spread out from here as well. And then we have our newest elder statesman, Steve Marino.
I am the oldest member, not a term, whatever age.
And Steve is also the council president. Okay? And we're missing a couple of our members. I think maybe they might be tied up or out of town. So anyway, thank you guys for being here. I've asked them just to respond as appropriate. If you have questions that they feel comfortable responding to do that, and we'll just take it as we go. I want to take just the first few minutes, if I may, and some of you have heard some of this, but some of you may not have heard it, but I think it helps set the tone and the background for us, kind of why we're here, where we're headed, and that sort of thing. In my State of the City, I use some of these numbers, and then we've updated a few things since then. So this current administration began in November 2016. And, you know, when we're talking about a tax referendum, we're asking ourselves and everyone here to vote to pay more. I think we owe it to you to let you know that we've done everything that we can do. This administration, I know history of Irondale goes way back, and we can't answer for a decade back or 2 decades back or 6 years back. These guys in this term have been in here for about a year and a half, and during that time we've not taken on any new debt. Now we still have a lot of debt as a city, but it's old debt. It's debt that preceded this administration coming in 2016. In addition to that, last year, in our first year in office in this administration, we discovered that there were a couple of issues that had not been taken care of by past administrations, some of that dating back to 2002, that meant that we discovered obligations that the city had that were in excess of $1.34 million. There were a couple of big obligations that the city had agreed to with developers and others that the city had to make good on. And we did that last year, which was over and above our budget, but legally we had to do it. We had no choice. And we paid $840,000 of that $1.34 million back, and we have some terms on the rest of it where we're making payments going forward in the future to get the rest of that cleared up. I would say we settled it all favorably as you can settle a $1.3 million debt. It was much higher than that. We negotiated. Our attorney back here, Leslie Clasing, helped us with the negotiation and the mediation. And Leslie, if you would just stand up so folks can know, I put the target on you there. Leslie's doing a fantastic job for us. You know, I think what the original number was probably closer to $2 million. That it was very high. We negotiated it down. We reached an agreement. We settled for actually less than what it would have been if we'd have paid it out at the time that it was due 10 years ago or 12 years ago. So we feel good about that, but it was still, nonetheless, it was an unexpected obligation that we encountered and discovered that we had to make good on. We've implemented cost-saving measures. We've reduced or eliminated contracts that were in place, totaling $221,000. $221,000 of either doing away with contracts or reducing them, renegotiating those. That's $221,000 annually that we're saving, that we were paying prior to November 2016. We reduced staffing costs by approximately $1 million to date, and that is not by firing people, not by laying people off, but by attrition. Positions that have come open that we've not filled. I think at last count we had somewhere between 17 and 20 of those positions that we just had not filled that have come open. Now a few of those will have to be filled, but we're holding off as best we can, and we're trying to shift staff around to cover different responsibilities so that we can continue to reduce costs there on staffing. We've restricted vehicle usage. I mean, it was like, automall out here. Lots of vehicles, lots of new vehicles have been bought over the past, and we put a new policy in place. We use a pool policy, a pool of cars now, so that not everyone has to have a vehicle, but there's enough vehicles that we can get the work done that we need to do. So those are some of the things that, beginning in 2016, that we dealt with, because one of the first questions that comes up, and I may be stealing somebody's question, is, well, why don't you all reduce costs before you ask for us to pay more in taxes? We've been working on that for the last year and a half. We've done a good job on it. I will tell you that we've cut it down to the bone. We're going to have to start amputating if we go much further. Okay, so we've trimmed the fat. We've done the best we can do that. At the beginning of this fiscal year, which was in October of 2018, our budget deficit on the new budget for this year was $700,000. We had $700,000 more dollars in things that we anticipated that were needed than what we projected that revenue would come. We had some surplus. The council decided to go ahead and roll with that, and if we need to, take it out of the surplus, but we were not at a balanced budget then, and so we still got either to raise revenue or we've got to reduce more expense. And I will just tell you, if we start reducing more expense, it's going to be laying people off. I mean, that's where we're at. So it's not a scare tactic. It's not a ploy. It's not. I mean, we've gone back to the department heads and said, trim your budget, trim your budget, trim your budget, and we're going to have to stop doing some things if we cut much more. Unrelated to this tax referendum, Sam's Club pulled out, which threw another big hit across us. I want to make it clear that the tax referendum had nothing to do with Sam's moving out. We didn't know that when we started talking about this tax referendum back in the fall. We didn't know until the day that it was announced publicly, when those employees came in at 8 o'clock that morning to Sam's Club to show up for work, and they were told you don't have a job any longer. 20 minutes later, that was about 8:30, 8:50, I got a call from Walmart saying we're shutting the Sam's Club down. That's how much notice we had. The employees got it at 8:30, we got it at 8:50. And but it has nothing to do with the tax referendum, but it does have an impact on our budget. You can see there, $1.4 million in revenue annually. This fiscal year alone, we anticipate that it will cost us about $900,000 in lost revenue with Sam's pulling out. So the total budget deficit for 2018 then, with that $700,000 plus the $900,000 for the remainder of this year, we project to be $1.6 million. That's just kind of where we are. It is what it is. It's what we have to deal with. All right, so fast forwarding then, the property tax referendum moving forward, Tuesday, April the 10th, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at City Hall. Some of you, and I'm going to try to, I'm giving you this because I think it may answer some of your questions before. I don't want to stifle your questions, but I want to give you information, and then you can ask questions about it or ask for more detail. Some of the stuff that's been going around is, well, we're already taxed. We're already heavily taxed. We're the most taxed city or whatever. We're taxed as much. I heard even one person say we're taxed as much as Mountain Brook. You can see from this chart the millage rates of other municipalities. I know it's small print, but you see where the yellow line is? That's Irondale. We're at number 25. So there are 24 other cities around us that are taxed at a higher rate than we are. We're at number 25 out of 38 that are listed here in the metropolitan area as we currently stand with our tax rate. So I just wanted to give you the perspective of where we are, because, you know, I said this before at the last town hall meeting, but some of you may not have been here. You do know everything you read on Facebook is not true, right? Okay. It really isn't. Okay? Not everything. Sometimes, not most things. Okay? So that's where we stand. A vote for this initiative, for the tax referendum, is a vote to increase the millage rate of your property by 6 meals per year. I'll explain what that means for those who don't think in terms of meals, which is me. It's projected to generate about $900,000 in revenue for us, but it will not solve it's not intended to solve, and it will not solve our budget deficit this year. That's a whole different issue, but I want to give you the lay of the land, because this revenue will not start coming in until at least January 2019, so a year from now. So this fiscal year will be over and gone before we ever see any, if this is approved. So the projected additional revenue, $900,000, to be recognized beginning in January 2019. The breakdown on that $900,000 is approximately 1/3 will be paid by residents and about 2/3 commercial. So it's about $300,000 across the city is what will be paid by residents for their home taxes, and about the other 2/3, about $600,000 of that is off of commercial properties. So it's shared across the board. It's not just residents. It's businesses and commercial property. What will it be used for? That's a question that that comes up. It's a very legitimate, very logical, and reasonable question. And what the council has said is we will use those funds, and they have to approve any expenditure of funds. I don't do that, contrary to what I get credit for on Facebook. The mayor did this, the mayor did that. I get a lot of credit for things that I have absolutely no power to do, but thank you anyway for that vote of confidence. It'll be used for Irondale and Move initiatives such as, let's go down, well, let me, before I get to that, all right, so we're going to stick with that one? Yeah. Okay. what the tax referendum is not, I thought this might be easy for us. It's not a reaction to Sam's closing. It's not for the mayor. It's not for the council. And it's not to fix the deficit. Okay, that's what it's not for. What is it for? It's for preparation for the future of Irondale. It's an opportunity to provide services that the residents expect, that the residents want, and in many cases that the residents need. So it's a question for us collectively as a group, as a family, to say, yeah, I think it's worth a little bit more for me to pay because I really like having whatever the service is that you like having, whether it's a top-rated fire department, We've got our interim fire chief Doss here that, you know, the fire department's worked very hard, and it's expensive. It's expensive. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of cost. But you know what? Your insurance premiums are some of the lowest around because of the great rating that our fire department has. Or a police department that will actually show up when you call them and respond. I work in some other cities around here that if you call, you're not guaranteed that they're going to show up anytime soon. But we have a top-notch police department. Public Works, Frank's back here, directs Public Works. We have a top-notch Public Works and great people that work in that. So, you know, it's a question of, do we want to pay for the services that we expect and that we want and that we need? That's what the referendum is really about. So what will the money be used for? The council has discussed to use it for the Irondale and Move initiatives such as, and these are just kind of broad categories, public services and infrastructure. Now going down to the next one, I can give you more information. This is all, that's directly out of the comprehensive plan, which is linked to the website. So if you want to read the detail, it's there for you online at the city website. Public services and infrastructure, green systems, which are the parks, and stormwater management's a big issue now, runoff of stormwater and how we deal with that. And we've got a lot of infrastructure that's got to be replaced and helping with that. Economic development, you know, we need what? We need businesses, we need folks to move here where there's things that you have to do, and it costs to get that happening, and it costs to provide rebates and incentives and those sorts of things to attract new businesses. And then April the 10th, we just ask you to get out and vote. You know what? We should consider ourselves a family. We're a small community, we're a small town. We are not Mountain Brook, we're not Vestavia, we're not Hoover, we're not anybody else but Irondale. So all we ask for you to do is get out and vote. Let's decide collectively as a group. Council can't decide whether to raise your property tax or not. I can't decide whether to do it. You're the only ones that can do it. We are the only ones that can do it individually by getting out and voting and saying yes or saying no. Saying yes, I kind of like having those services that I've come to expect. Or I'm okay with cutting back some of those services and I'll save my $60 on my $100,000. Because the calculation, that's what it is. Calculation $6 million property tax increase. If your house is worth or is appraised at market value of $100,000, you would pay $60 more a year, which is less than 17 cents a day. If you live in a $300,000 house that's valued at that, you're going to pay $180 more a year, which is what, less than 50 cents a day. So that's what it is. And so you make your decision, but please, you know, get out and vote. Vote yes, vote no. You know, when you vote yes, then that'll be a message to the city council and to the administration here to say, hey, they want us to do something. And if you vote no, that's going to be a message to the council and to the administration here to say, hey, they're okay with cutting back. They're okay with cutting back further than where we are, because that's the vote of the people. So that's your choice. All right, so I'm done with the presentation part there. I thought that might be helpful for you to get a little bit of background, kind of where we are, where we come from, how we got here, what we've done to try to fix as much as we can fix at this point, and now it's your turn to ask
Just
questions.
mention real quick before you start that, our reserves, if we have to start drawing down anything.
Okay, we have about $3 million in reserves, is that correct, James? About $3 million in reserves, which is about the baseline, the minimum baseline that a city of our size should have. I would tell you that I would feel much more comfortable if we had $6 million or $8 million in reserves, but that is what it is, and that is what we have. Okay? Yes?
So you mentioned it's specifically not to address the deficit. If it doesn't make up the deficit, and presumably we're committed to paying our debts, isn't that where it has to go first?
Yeah. So this fiscal year, which runs through October, absolutely impossible for it to have any impact on that. So we've got to figure that out, you know, and I wish I had the complete answer for you on that. I don't have. But going forward, we're hopeful that we're getting new businesses in. I've talked to one just today that is ready to purchase the property and come in. We've got a couple of others that are already through the process and are getting ready to do their work. So we're hoping that these new businesses and all will help us generate more revenue and increase the opportunity for us to plug some of those holes. But you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, we have a pot of money. It's from tax revenue, business license fees, whatever. And we've got to spread that across the whole spectrum of what we do. And so this, to me, this is just a small shot in the arm to help get to the point that we need to be, but not, it's not a panacea, it's not a cure-all for us. And so yes, you know, the services that we provide, all the services that we provide should be services that the residents expect and want and need. And if we have enough money to provide all those and then can go beyond that, then we do that. If we don't have but just enough to cover those, then we cover the basic needs. And if we don't have enough to cover the basic needs, then we have to start eating ramen noodles. You know what I mean? Like when you were in college. So that's kind of the path. I mean, I wish I had a better answer, but that is yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm just following you, and we were budgeted this year, when we did the budget, $700,000 deficit.
Correct.
Sam's tanks on us, it happened, that came out of Bentonville.
Correct.
Gonna cost us, our calculations, $900,000.
For this fiscal year.
When we finish this fiscal year, more or less, we're gonna be 1.6 million in the hole.
Yes, sir.
That's
what
going to cover that loss of revenue, because we've got expenditures already pegged against that. That's going to have to come out of our $3 million in reserve. Assuming the property tax were passed, and the numbers we're looking at, I think your numbers are probably reasonable. We get $900,000. All that does is plug us in for about 3/4 of the year of Sam's revenue. I mean, it covers it over. We're still back at a $700,000 deficit. And that will start, what, that will be 2019 fiscal year. I mean,
It's bleak to say the
it's a little
least.
scary.
That's what happens when you have $55 million in debt.
How much of our debt, and then there is a portion of it, and I know, you read things on Facebook, but there's a portion of that debt that represents the bonds that were issued for when Trinity was supposed to come and the infrastructure. It's my understanding that somehow the money is going to pay off those bonds, and it's almost like an offset. We got a liability and we got an asset.
Yeah, that would be nice, but James, you correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't refresh my memory over this, but I did address it at one previous meeting. The Trinity debt is paid separate. Trinity is paying the debt that they have, correct?
Yes.
All right, so that's not factored into these numbers that I give you. That is separate. There's another, is it like, of that 55 million, about 4 million is Trinity debt?
Yes, 4 million is Trinity debt. The debt that was Trinity Hospital, the city defeased a lot of that debt in 2012 when the lawsuit was settled. So the debt that we have with Trinity is no longer on the books because we had to escrow funds to be able to take care of that debt when the call date was.
So let me say back up. Look, and I don't want to be too dismissive, but it really doesn't matter how we got here. We got here. Okay. So it really doesn't matter. But let me give you the 60-second version of kind of how we got here with that debt. What happens is when you, it's crazy. It's not like it works at your household. It's not like it works in your business. But with a municipality, when you borrow money, they somehow consider that as income, as revenue. Okay. Now, if I borrow money, I view that as an obligation and an expense that I've got to make good on. But that's literally what happens. Is it's viewed as revenue. And so you say, okay, well, you know, when you're borrowing money, when you're borrowing this $55 million of debt over time, and some of this for good stuff. I'm not downplaying that. I'm just saying borrowed more maybe than we should have. But when you're borrowing that money, it looks like you got revenue, so what do? You got revenue, so you go out and you buy something else. And then you take 3 of these bonds and you, as James used the word, defease, you settle up on them and roll them into, you consolidate basically, roll them up into one other one. So by the time you get to where we are today, you don't really know what that $55 million was really for. It just was a part of living over the last 10, 12 years, and it's just accumulated. And we just gotta, we gotta stop borrowing, and we gotta start living within our means. And we've gotta deal with the debt that we have. And it's tough right now, but I'm confident and positive that we will come out on the right side of this. It's just gonna be, tight and tough for the next year or two. But you're absolutely right, yeah.
I hope this isn't a redundant question, but is this tax that we're talking about the one that you said Jefferson County is going to be collecting?
Well, they're just, it flows through them, yes. Just like the
They
regular.
charge us, they have it flow through.
Just like the taxes that you're paying right now. Yeah, it's the same thing. It is the same thing. It's just a fee for the collection service, but we're not, I mean, you can imagine if you had all the cities across the state that collected ad valorem tax and then, had to disperse it out. But yeah, it's just the way it's done. It's the same way it's done right now. This will be just in addition to that. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
No.
Thank you.
Mayor, I don't think we have a choice to have
No,
Jefferson
that's
County
right.
collect
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not a choice.
It's the 6 mills that we're talking about. Nobody else is going to get it. Right now your property tax is made up of school taxes, state taxes, city taxes, county taxes. Everybody kind of gets a little cut of the amount that you pay on your property tax. This 6 mil, if approved, will all come to Irondale, minus just the small fee that's charged for collection.
Was that the total number in your chart with all of those mills added together? In the chart that you
Of the 900,000 you talking about?
no, on the mills charged per county or per city?
This thing's
Wait a minute, I can only hear one. Oh, excuse me just a second.
So you put up a chart with the nearby cities, and it had
Oh.
a mills and then a total.
Yeah, that's the total, right?
It's the municipal portion and the total. Those
Okay.
are the 2 columns. I'm going back to it.
Okay. I'm sorry, I wasn't clicking on which one you were talking about. So we'll get to that here in just a second.
So there's 2 columns. There's a municipal column, which is the part that comes directly to the city, and there's a total, which includes the state, the county, the school, and everybody's cut.
So Irondale is currently paying 6.5 mills. That's what you're paying that comes to Irondale. But there's a total of 56 mills that you're paying. Only 6.5 of which comes here. And so if we get the 6 mil increase, it'll be 12.5. So you can see it's a small amount relative to what your total tax bill is. Good question. Yes, sir.
Do we have any projections as far as, we've lost Sam's, but the new businesses that come in, like Mercedes, big savings place over there, and we got the Maserati location there. Is there any projections as far as how much that's gonna help with revenue?
Yeah, we do have projections on that, but here's the thing on that. Those were already projected into the budget for this year because we knew they were gonna open, and so we did our best projections on counting that. So while we do have projections on what they might generate, it's not in addition to the shortfall. It's already factored into these numbers that we're talking about. Does that make sense to you?
Okay. Where do you see any future growth years?
Future growth, we got,
years down the road?
yeah, we've got, right now, I can just say, I can't give you names and stuff, but I can tell you who I've been talking with, who we've been talking with. Right now, there are 2 developers on Grants Mill, actually 3. Three properties that are going to be developed, maybe 4, but I guess 4 now that I'm thinking about it. So there's 4 on Grants Mill, from Sam's Club to Ole's. There's 4 properties that either have been sold or under contract or in process of various businesses. There is one right here on Crestwood that'll be fairly significant if that goes through. There's a contract on that property, and assuming that everything goes through, it'll be a nice business there, should generate a fair amount of sales. Not gonna be a Sam's Club size, but it's gonna be a nice business. We've got another, well, that was on this side on Crestwood. We got another one on this side of Crestwood, down by Golden Rule. That was just approved by the council. I can tell you that one. It used to be Simply Fashion. You know where that is? They're reopening that. It's called Simply 10. That was just approved just in the last couple of weeks. They're hoping to open up by April. We just approved another one where the Fabric Jungle building is out on 78 on out there. That business will be opening soon as well. So there are a number of those kinds. We have a couple other smaller ones that have already opened up. So there is some momentum. There is some stuff happening. It's just, again, no one of those is going to solve the problem. It's going to take a lot of them collectively, and they're not going to happen overnight, but they're in the process. There's a lot of interest in Irondale. There's a lot of folks looking and talking and hoping to do something. And I'm trying to be very careful because I've heard this. I've said what you said, and I've heard it over and over again. Oh, we got this big business coming to such and such a place, and this business is coming here, and it's going to solve all our problems. I try to be very careful not to mislead you, but to give you what I can give you. Yes, ma'am.
Not to speak for the questions I think you guys were asking, but I think, and to your point, it's slightly misleading when you talk about, and I'm not trying to be negative because I'm 100% for the tax. When you look at the small portion that comes to our city, that's ridiculous. We've got to have more. There's just no way. We've got to have more. And we can't compare ourselves to our neighbors who are getting, Mountain Brook is getting 36%, Trussville is getting, Trussville, they're on there.
12%.
I mean, you know, we're getting a 6%, good grief. But anyway, so, but what does concern me, because we're trying to sell the idea of this, the new increase for the future of the Irondale on the Move initiatives. But as these gentlemen were pointing out, we have such huge debt. And I don't see how we will get to those initiatives in the next 5 years realistically. I would like to know if there's been discussion about realistically if our new business does not improve, if we lose business, you know, if we're just flat where we are, how long will it take for us to be able to get to a balanced budget to where we can then pay for the Irondale on the Move things, the parks, the whatever that we want? Because right now, those numbers are staggering. It doesn't seem like we'll get there.
No doubt. Well, I think I brought it up. It's $1.6 million. You know, it's basically the projected deficit. If everything stays the same, we're hopeful that not everything is going to stay the same. Can I promise you that it's not? No. Can I promise you that it's going to be solved in a year? No. Can I promise you that, you know, 3 years from now? Again, what I can say is that the council will have to struggle. The council appropriates all funding. Okay, so I mean that is their primary job, is to take the funds that come in to the city and figure out where should these funds be spent. And so they're going to have a tough job. They're going to have a tough job over the next year and a half, 2 years of making that budget balanced, because we can't keep being at a $700,000 deficit, $1.6 million deficit, when you heard us just say we've got $3 million in reserves. So if things don't improve and if we don't get the revenue, then there's going to be tough decisions to be made.
Well, what kind of leverage do we have as a city, or the city council, or the zoning board, or whatever powers that be, that can squeeze some of the current business owners, shall we say, who are not up to snuff, and they are not improving their property so that other business owners and other people I'm not going to name mention, but I guarantee you everybody in this room knows which property I'm talking about. So that it is visually appealing, that other businesses want to move here, that people want to move here because they see that and they go, hi, that looks like the Summit, but it's in Irondale, and we want to move there. What do we have to squeeze those business people to say, you need to make it look better? People in Irondale don't want this done.
And I would add to, it's not just businesses, there's also residential as well. We have a couple of members of our abatement board. Marty is here, he's on the abatement board. Who else is here from the abatement board? All right, Marty, I singled you out, put the target on you. But they just recently were instrumental in helping get cleaned up a residential, it happened to be a residential property in a neighborhood, some of you may live in the neighborhood, that had been going on for, what, 10 years, right? The house had been abandoned, and I mean, for 10 years. I don't mind naming a couple. We're working on the amusement park up at Grants Mill, getting that taken care of. It's not a short process. It's not an easy process, as the abatement folks will tell you, but we're working on it. Siesta Motel, we've already shut them down, at least for this time being. That, you know, if they're going to open back up, there's certain things that they have to do to be able to open back up. So we're working towards those. It's not again, I don't want to make excuses. It's not an overnight process. It's not an easy process, but it is a process, and we can work through those. And we've started tackling some of the ones that were really needing to be tackled. I don't know if I hit on the ones that you were talking about. We could all name different ones. Yes, I agree. You know, we all have to do our part. It's not just businesses, though. But I mean, I want to say it's everywhere and everything. You know, we all need to take pride. You know, one of the things I've been most happy with Irondale before I ever got into office was how clean our city was. You know, I think past administration has done a great job in keeping the city clean. You see, there's one up here at Fairfield. I'm very familiar with Fairfield because I work over there. So 40.5 meals, 40.5 meals. Property tax there, and if you want to see what it looks like when they don't have the money to do what they need to do, go take a drive through there and you'll see trash all over the place. You'll see litter all over the place. It was actually, you know, one of the ones that, I need to be careful about what I say, but I mean, I'm just saying, they struggle, you know, they're struggling because they don't have the base of revenue to provide the services, you know. If they had the funds and they had the money, I'm sure they'd provide the services that are needed there. And we don't want to get there. We don't want to get to where we have to either let things go or let people go. Yes, ma'am.
Can you give a basic breakdown of where revenue comes from? So this is the part that you bring in from us. How much do you get from the businesses? Is it sales tax? Where does a dollar, how much of it comes from which?
All right, I'm going to turn to James in just a moment on that. I already told you on the 6 meals, so we're at 6.5 meals now, so you could use those same numbers pretty generally, which means we're getting about $900,000 a year in ad valorem tax on the property. Again, about 2/3 of that coming from commercial and 1/3 from residential. So that's the ad valorem part. Sales tax, James, the numbers?
Sales tax was around $9.4 million. We have about $1 million that comes in property tax. We have about another $1 million that comes in what are called franchise fees. We also have another $1 million that comes in for the cable TV. They pay a 3% to the city as well. Then also we have business licenses, which generate about $1.8 million for the city. We have permits that ranges somewhere between $400,000 to $500,000 for the city. And then we have several intergovernmental revenues that come in. We receive money from the county for wine, for gas tax, for ad valorem tax on automobiles. That makes up another $2 to $3 million there, and then we have about $1 million in miscellaneous revenue.
So for a total of about
$18 million.
18 million.
And that's about what I would expect, because I know Alabama, in general, almost half of our state revenue comes from sales tax. And so what happens is when you lose these businesses, you're doubly lost, it's a double loss, because, and it's another reason why these big ticket items, these car, places, they're something, but they're not great because the money's not moving. Right, they're one or two big influences, but if you're not having just this constant exchange of a grocery
Not
store
churning
or the Sam's, that's why the Sam's loss.
Yeah,
is
you eat all
so
that stuff
big.
in the grocery store and have to go back next week.
Right. So I'm just, are y'all thinking about that for the businesses
Well,
that you're bringing in, that it's a,
Yeah, yeah,
flow?
let me say, I think the whole face of retail is changing, and I think we have to get less dependent on retail sales tax. It's just, I mean, it's never gonna look like it used to look. It's gonna change, that's why, I think that's one of the couple of main reasons that Sam's Club closed up, is because of e-commerce and the challenges they have with eBay and the other big companies that, you know, you can order that same TV from eBay, have it delivered to your house and not pay sales tax on it. Well, now I think they charge sales tax, but used to not even pay any sales tax. So, you know, I personally think that we're gonna have to begin looking at the whole thing differently than I mean, a lot of those businesses I talked to them about, you know, are not all retail. You know, they're providing services, they're providing wholesales, you know, and I think we're gonna have to look at it. And you know, it's a tough thing, but I don't think this is the answer. You know, I don't think the property tax increase is the answer to all of our problems. I think it is only a very small step, first step, in getting to where we need to get. So please don't leave here thinking that the mayor said, we vote for this thing, it's gonna solve all of our problems, because I am under no misguided illusion that is the case. Yes, ma'am.
Can you help me understand a little bit about how 6 mills was established and why not 8 or 5 or 4?
Okay, yeah, it's a really easy answer. That's the most we were allowed as a city to increase without having special legislative approval
By the state?
by the state. And we chose not to try even go
Fair.
down that path. So, for reasons you could
Yes.
extrapolate. Yeah. Good question though, because you're right. You know, so often we kind of stop halfway, which I think is probably what you were thinking, you know, why didn't we do a little bit more and solve the bigger part of the problem? But that's all that's where we were capped without having to jump through a bunch of other hoops. Who had a question over there? Ken?
Do we have a committee in the city council that project 10, 15 years out, kind of planning things and direction that the city wants to go? You know, you mentioned e-commerce. Are we looking at maybe getting some revenue from e-commerce? You know, they started to do sales taxes, so can Irondale get some revenue from those sales taxes?
Yeah.
If you live in Irondale and having things delivered in Irondale and that type of thing.
Yeah, it's a great question, Kenneth. The short answer is no. And, you know, it's not the preferred answer, but the short answer is no. We do, I mean, not that far out. We do try to look out. David is the chair of the budget finance committee and of the council, and they try to project out, you know, but they're not looking beyond a couple of years really at this point. But I do think, as I said, you know, we've got to begin looking at this differently than what it's been looked at in the past. You can't just keep doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. And we see where we are now. You know, we're going to keep getting the same results if we keep operating the same way that we've always operated. And that's a challenge for some folks, you know, because we get comfortable and we want to, you know, we want our status quo. We want our status quo, but we also want all this other stuff over here, you know, and you can't have it both ways. So it's going to be painful. Yes, go ahead.
I did download and read that lovely how
Bless
many
you.
pages thing.
It's long.
I probably didn't make it to the end, so it might be somewhere in that. But it indicated there was like a committee or a group that makes up this, whatever it's called.
Irondale on the Move.
Okay, who are they?
Well, okay, so here's what happened. About 3 or 4 years ago, I don't remember because again, it was before I was in this position. 2012. The city commissioned a comprehensive plan to be done. which is that document that you said that you had to, it's lengthy, 80 pages, whatever, 100 pages, 1,000 pages, whatever it is. But it's good, it's good stuff, I mean, it's a good plan. And so they set that up, and they commissioned for that to be done, and there was a resident-led group of folks who got together and had meetings like this, and got input from different people, and a process over a couple of years began developing that plan. It's not a perfect plan, but it's a good plan. And it will never be fully implemented. I'll just go out on a limb, which is not going out on a limb at all. Yeah, what's that?
Park rangers?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, I just,
Yeah,
you know,
no,
it's like,
no,
oh,
no,
park rangers is,
no,
okay,
there-
okay,
there-
yeah, I
there's-
don't think our girl needs park rangers.
There's some pie in the sky stuff there, and that's why I say. But if you notice what we put up here were the broad categories and the things that there's something in each of those categories that is good and that is helpful. So yes, it's overkill, it's overdone in that sense, but it's a good map, and it's not made to be, you know, we sometimes have council members sit up and show, oh, you gotta do what the comprehensive plan says. Well, you can change the comprehensive plan. If you get 3 years into it, 5 years into it, things change. Nobody knew Sam's was leaving 3 years ago, you know?
So who is this group? Who are these people that started? Is it the same people that started in 2012?
No, well, it's your neighbors.
There were some initials like CG and CJ, and who's responsible for this, and who kind of came up with that, and I couldn't figure out who was who. I didn't know if it was a group of 3 people
No.
or 33 people.
No, there was a group, yes, tell us.
I was on that group, Tillis Shoemaker with the Chamber of Commerce. It was myself, James Stewart represented the city, and Darrell Washington represented the CDA. And what we did was work with the Regional Planning Commission of Greater Birmingham. Lindsay Smith was our representative. They came up with a plan. We met with several different people throughout the districts to get their input as to what they wanted to do. Part of this was to come up with an advisory team. I came up with several of our businesses who were involved. There were several residents involved. And so it was a combination of what the residents wanted and what the Greater Birmingham Planning, the tools that they had. And so that is how it had a comprehensive plan. Plus, and James will tell you too, it is required by a city to have a comprehensive plan. So this was just a blueprint, and it is a live document. You can always change it, and you can, like the mayor said. So that's basically it in a
So
nutshell.
who's the current advisory board?
The
I guess that's,
current
maybe I'm not
person
asking the
is
question.
the mayor. There was no need to have anybody in charge. It was a high cost.
We have a group, we have
And there's still a group.
Thank you.
Yeah, we continue to have an advisory group that meets about once a quarter on that, to review, to kind of see where we are. We've implemented a number of the things in the plan.
And are those meetings open to the public?
Yes.
Okay, or online, or somewhere we kind of track it or follow it, moving
Yeah,
forward and stuff?
any meeting that the city has is a public meeting, unless we're in executive session. It's public.
Mayor, and when they were working on the comprehensive plan, they had several meetings like this. I think that met at Shade Valley High School lunchroom, and they had questionnaires that
We
that
did one for
everybody that came to
education.
the meeting filled out the questionnaire. We mailed some out to
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of,
select
I mean, I know there was a
people,
lot of
and,
work put into
yeah,
it.
it was not just these 3 people doing it. It was, they were gathering information from all areas of the city, businesses and citizens, and a lot of them were mailed out, weren't they? To
Yes, there
select-
were, and, but the main thing was for us to be able to touch all entities, which is residents, our business community, so we could all work together to create a vibrant community.
And so currently there's an advisory group, like I said, that meets about once a quarter on that. It's about 12 to 15 people. I mean, I can give you the names. I don't know.
I mean, it was just like, oh, there's an advisory group, and I knew it started in 2012, and I was like, great.
No. All right.
Let's take that a step further. The plan, I read it, and it's good. It's very encompassing. I see it as sort of a utopian type. This is the 50,000 foot
No,
level.
yeah.
This is where we want to be. It might take 5, 10, 15, I saw 25 years. That's not gonna be right. Do we have anything in the way of an execution plan toward those goals and things we're working on this year, over the next 5 years, over the, I mean, to where you can put a schedule with it to sort of see where you're gonna fall? We didn't miss this, we missed this date, we didn't get this done. Is somebody on it to make that happen? Is somebody moving to get this next milestone?
Right. Yeah, I can give you a couple of examples. The advisory group that's currently meeting, one of the most recent things we worked on is branding. If you read through the plan, you saw that branding was a big thing. You know, what is our identity and that sort of thing. We had a group, a couple of folks here in this room were part of that. We worked with a professor at UAB to come up with some designs and graphics and stuff like that. So we've got about 6 or 8 different proposals on that in terms of what would be best for the city in terms of branding, that sort of thing. The students that use a class to do that, they did an excellent job on it. We got a lot of good ideas.
It didn't cost a dime.
That's right. Yeah, let's get some interns down here and offer some internships.
Right. So we're working on those kinds of things. Some of the things, we could go through and give them a report card, I guess. Some of the things we've checked off, we've done. Some things we haven't even thought about. I hadn't even thought about park rangers, I want to apply. The easy things, that we can do that, I mean, we don't have funding for the plan right now. That's what we're sitting here talking about, those kinds of things. We don't have funding for the plan, so anything that's going to cost, anything significant, we have to step back and say, okay, how are we going to pay for it? But the things, that didn't cost us anything to get all that work done. And I'm telling you, they did some really professional quality stuff, and we're real excited about that, and how that might play out in the future of Irondale. Let me get somebody who has not asked a question that has one and wants to discuss.
With the budget that you're looking at and companies you're trying to bring in, are you going to have to use any of the budget for incentives to bring these companies in?
Well, I think one of the categories up there was economic development, on how some of these funds may be used. I can tell you right now what our incentive plan is it's strictly on retail at this point, and it is a rebate of new sales tax that you bring in. And so if we have a business that comes to us and says, I want to come and I'm going to generate $1 million in retail sales, that's going to generate $40,000. We'll work out some split with them if they have a gap that they need to make that happen over a period of time. And we'll share that because we figure half of something is better than all of nothing. And so that's kind of the approach that the council has taken in terms of looking at those proposals. So when we talk about incentives, we're really talking about the way that would come to play for many of these funds would be if there were some infrastructure improvements that we needed to make that would make it enticing for that company to come in, not a direct rebate back. Because thus far, at least, our approach has been, and this administration has been, if you're generating new revenue for the city and you need some help to make that happen, then we'll work with you on that in terms of a rebate. But beyond that, kind of on your own. We can't compete with Birmingham or Hoover or the state or some of those cities and get cash out the door. Okay. Don, all right, 1 second. Don, I saw Donna's hand first.
You may want to label this Simplicity 101, but I'm going to vote yes for the tax because I want the fire, and I'm not looking 15 years into the future because it's probably not going to be. But I'm looking for today, and I'm looking for tomorrow, and I'm looking for next year. When I call the fire department, I want them to come. I want the fire department to be trained as paramedics because somebody might be sick. I want my garbage picked up, and I want the truck that picks it up, and the men, I want it to be in good running condition, and I want the men to be paid well. Now, it's my understanding that this tax that we're going to vote on April the 10th is going to help ensure that we have these, I won't call them amenities, but necessities for our everyday living. Because that's where I'm thinking. I'm thinking every day, what do we need? What is necessary? And in my opinion, city workers, the fire department, when I'm having a problem, if somebody's breaking into my house, I want the police to come. I don't want somebody to say, I'm sorry, we laid off 3 officers and it'll be 30 minutes. You know, I don't want that. We're not used to that.
No, you're right. You're right. And when
It's worth $5 a month to me.
yeah. And when I first got involved, in this, I had one business owner here tell me, you know, he said, when I call the fire department, they come. When I call the police department, they come. That's really what I expect, he said. And kind of, I thought it was rather simplistic, but yeah, it was really the answer of what he was thinking. What?
Well, you know, there's just one in every crowd that don't disagree.
No.
Oh, yeah. And,
say it ain't so.
Yeah, I've never been in one of these town hall meetings. My name's Ray Morton, and I am a resident of Irondale. I called 5 municipalities in our Jefferson, try to make it somewhat similar to Irondale. Jefferson County school systems, Jefferson County collected the tax, Jefferson County paid multiple roads in the area. I want to submit this to you. I want to talk about Trustful for a minute, which is a little bit different. The 12 mills are 5 goes to the city and 7 goes to the school system. So you have to kind of look at that and keep that in mind, because we are currently paying 6, I think this period 6.5 mills. And you're asking for another 6. We don't have our own school system. So this is a comparison. I'd like to submit it to you. It's got the number of employees in each of the cities, and it has how they get their revenue. Some of them have occupational taxes, sales taxes. They don't have property taxes. So
No.
I'll just take a look at it.
Yeah, I'd love to have it on here. You can pass it on.
Okay.
Thank you very much. No, you're absolutely right. Each city is different. Trustful, of course, has much more. I'm not even looking at the page. I would say that their sales tax revenue is kind of out the roof, because you got the Pinnacle, and then you got where Walmart is, and you got all these big shopping centers that are there. Yeah, so I would.
$45 million.
Yeah, and you just heard ours is 4 or 5 million, so 10 times on the retail sales. Martin?
There are obviously going to be a lot of people, or some people that aren't going to vote for this just because they're opposed to the tax. Will the city or someone have a location, a website that is well visited by people to kind of explain the process and what the money is for, and primarily to preserve the basic services that we have now? You know, the excess that we would get, if there is any, would then go towards the comprehensive plan. But is there going to be a source that...
It was on the city website. And again, we can't control who reads it, who puts it out, but there's information on the city website.
For the comprehensive
Yeah.
plan?
Well, the comprehensive plan, but he's talking about just on the tax information. We can post all of this that we have. We'll start putting more out on Facebook on that over the next, as we get up close to this election time. Any suggestions or ideas that you all have in terms of where or how, you know, that people would see it?
Have you already written up the ballots? And you could say, a vote yes means you will continue to get the same service. And a vote no means you will lose service.
Yeah, we can do it that way. What, in fairness, what we can't do or what we don't do is we try to not use city funds to promote one way or the other, but to lay out the facts, to tell you, and so we can do it through the media. Because we recognize not everyone's for it, you know. So it's a choice. You know, you just heard Ray say, you know, there's one in every bunch. But I mean, we got a pretty good shot here if there's only one.
Some of the misinformation, though, said is going on, and you all see this on whatever site you go to, says that the city council is going to do this with the money, going to do that. I think if people have a fundamental understanding of primarily it's going to preserve what we have. And if we don't pass this tax, then we could lay people off and our basic services could be affected.
Yes.
I think maybe they would be more inclined to vote for it than, particularly if they're in the swing area.
Yeah. And let me tell you, and I hear you, and I think that's a great suggestion, but let me tell you what I think is even one step better than that is for you all to respond when you see it. Because they always think we have an agenda, you know, when I say we, the elected officials, we always have an agenda. It's not true, but that's the perception sometimes out there, or the perception is portrayed. I can't tell you how many things that I've heard of, read, seen online that's just blatantly inaccurate and not true. If I responded to all of those individually, that's all I would be doing. But individually, you all, when you see it, and some of you do that, you correct folks, you know, and I mean, I don't want to come across as defensive. I want to lay the facts out for you, and I want to tell you what the situation is, and you're all intelligent people, and you make up your mind. I want this or I want that. You know, I want my $60, or I want better services, good services. It's a simple, at the end of the day, it's a simple
equation.
Yeah, it's very easy to figure out. I saw a hand over there. Al?
It's not really a matter of better services, it's services we have now.
Consistent
and to maintain what we've got now, we need more money. Bottom line.
But I do want to call out that the presentation says this is not to cover the deficit.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah,
covers the services that we have now, right?
No, the presentation says is that this money will not even hit the city's bank accounts in this budget year, so it will not cover the deficit.
So more appropriately than it will not cover the 2017 deficit. It has the potential to cover future deficits.
Yeah, correct. I want you to understand that it has no impact, because people say, well, you know, well, why don't they do this, or why don't they do that now? It has no, you know, on April the 11th, it's not going to make any difference to us. It's only going to start making a difference on January 2019. And that then is a decision of the council. When that money starts coming in, okay, where does the money, you know, what's January 2019? January, you know, this time last year, we had no clue that Sam's was not going to be here, and we're going to lose that $1.4 million. So what's going to happen, you know, then? Last year, I will tell you, our city attorney was very instrumental in helping us. The reason we ended up in the black last year, she worked with some folks, I'll remain unnamed, but we collected over $1 million in taxes that had been diverted from Irondale to another municipality. We didn't know that. We were very happy to get it, very, very appreciative of the good work that she did to get us that point, and now is generating $300,000 or so a year of new revenue for us that we weren't getting. So we don't know what January 2019 is. We do know where we are right now and where we're headed, and we do know that even if it's 100% vote in favor of this referendum, that it won't affect our budget this year. That's what I meant. I'm sorry if I confused that. That's what I meant to say.
First of all, I want y'all to know I'm Regina Bearden. I spend a lot of time on Facebook. I try to answer. I was on at 3 o'clock this morning. I try to answer questions, and I don't answer questions without asking questions. I've called James and asked questions. I've asked Terry questions. I've asked Patricia questions, and these people know. So I'm not just bringing something out of my head, giving you what I think it is. But one of the things that was mentioned was we pay our taxes for our fire department, but when an ambulance comes and picks us up, we pay $450, or our insurance does. We don't own the ambulance company. We contract. They come and pick us up because our fire department calls and tells them we've got an MI or a stroke or whatever that needs to be picked up. So that's why you pay the $450. We don't own an ambulance company. We own a fire department that has EMTs that will come and do what they need to do, but the ambulance company transports you. So that's why you pay that. And now I have a question for you, Mayor. You said a while ago about eBay and Dildash and all those places, and they are talking about, and I've read it on Facebook and the newspaper, that they're trying to come up with a way of charging sales tax on these online purchases. My problem with that is, when I go in there and put my information and I put 35210, it pops up Birmingham. So how do we fix that to when they start collecting taxes, that we actually get the taxes and not Birmingham?
Okay, let me respond first to your first part, and that is, while you're waiting for that ambulance to come, it's the fire department's doing CPR.
Exactly.
Okay, and
The
saving
trained
lives,
fire
so,
department.
yeah.
And the paramedics.
So yes, the ambulance transports you, but there's a lot that goes in before that. All right, so Amazon, for example, is collecting sales tax for sales in Alabama. And the way that's distributed is not, what you said is not really an issue with the way the formula works. The way that is distributed is it goes to the state, whatever the rate is, goes to the state, and the city's portion is portioned out by population. So they take whatever, I don't know the percentages, but whatever percent's going to cities, they take that, and it's distributed among the population of cities. So Irondale gets 13,000 citizens or residents or whatever share of that sales tax.
And that's kind of how the gas tax is done too.
Yeah, so that's kind of how they do it. Cindy, you had your hand up a while?
Oh, no.
Okay, good. All right, so let me just pause for 1 second here, and then we'll take some more questions. It's 5 after we announced this to go to 7:30. I'm happy to stay and talk with you as long, but I want to honor the time. So I want to get anyone who has not asked a question first, and then if there's time, we'll take redo. All right, I'll come back to you. Yes.
I don't have a question, I have a statement. He compared us to Trustful. Let me give you an example. You call Public Works and say, man, I just missed the garbage truck. Guess what? Somebody come get your garbage. Trustful, you're out of luck. You call Public Works and say, my daughter's getting married in the backyard this weekend and my neighbor just put a whole bunch of junk out in the yard. Guess what? Public Works will stop and come pick up your junk. Trustful won't. Irondale has personal service. Trustful doesn't. If you want to keep your personal service, then vote for the tax. If you want to be anonymous and have no personal service, then don't vote for the tax. It's just that simple.
Yeah. And I can't speak to Trustful because
my sister works there.
I'm pretty concerned with Irondale, and this I do know is that we do provide great service. So I know that regardless of what anybody else is doing. Cindy?
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention, if you look at this chart and you talk about the municipalities, and because Trustville was mentioned and the fact that 5% of the property tax or whatever goes, you also need to take into account the population, the total number of residences that pay property taxes. So don't just look at what they're getting, take a look at the population property tax, whether it's business or residential. You need to compare apples to apples before you start coming up with your own ideas.
It's a strange comparison. Who has not asked? Yes, sir.
Just a quick interjection, excuse me for not standing, but think about one thing. You keep coming up with ideas, and I think that's great. Everybody's on board. Think about one minor thing you can do as a citizen of Irondale. If you hire somebody to provide a service to your home, a tree service, a yard service, make sure they have a business license in Irondale. It's minor, but no telling how many hundreds of thousands of dollars go outside of this city every day because we don't do that one minor thing, and that falls back to the resident that's actually using that service. We're not trying to gouge them. They need to have that license, but something that simple would help us.
And to tag on to that, it was a known thing when the city, you do know that now we're open 5 days a week, right? And when we were on 4 days, everybody knew that on Thursday afternoon you could start getting that contractor to come in, and Friday and Saturday and Sunday, because there was nobody working in the city, there was no inspections, there was no, I mean, it was just easy to come in. I actually had a tree cut down on my property since I've been there, and I called a couple of folks out to give me an estimate. And then this goes back to the trash removal and stuff. And so I was hiring somebody to cut this big tree down that had died in the yard. And I said to the guy, I said, now I need you to cut it down, I need you to clean it up, and I need you to haul it off. And he said, well, I'll just haul it up to the street. He said, the city will pick it up. And I didn't tell him I was the mayor. I just said, no, I don't think they will. He said, oh yeah, they will too. Well, I didn't go with him, but I mean, that was, I never did tell him I was the mayor either. But he didn't get the job, you know. So I mean, that's just common knowledge, you know. I saw your hand.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, the way that this has been portrayed in your presentation and on the city website as of this afternoon is that the money is not going to deficit, that it's going to the Irondale on the Move initiative. I think that, you know, overall, if it was portrayed a little bit more realistically, that, you know, for the next year or two, it has to go to the general city budget. I mean, I think if it was portrayed that way, you'd have a lot more people vote in favor of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the way I understood it, that it was all going to be allocated towards Irondale on the Move. And now that I see more about Irondale on the Move, it's very general. So if you need to divert it to stormwater handling, you can do that. If there's a federal mandate for sidewalks, you can do that. If it's supporting fire or police, you can do that. So it's not just parks and green space.
Right. Yeah, and nor is the comprehensive plan. If you look at the comprehensive plan, it includes all those things that you just mentioned, and all of those things are valid and in play.
So the city council has wide latitude.
Right. And I will just say, just personally, even though I don't get a vote in it, I will say just personally, I am not a big fan of earmarking. I mean, I'm not a big fan of telling the city now what they need to do a year or 2 years from now, because I know circumstances change. And I think we should elect people that we trust to make those decisions. And trust them to make good uses of the funds that come, and if they don't, we'll re-elect somebody else, you know, that, with the mayor and everybody else, you know. So if you can't trust your elected officials, then you should not vote to give them money to spend to provide the services that you may want. If you can't trust them, I wouldn't give somebody money I don't trust. Kenneth's my neighbor. I've told Kenneth before, you know, I mean, I let him hold my wallet. You know? He actually has the key to my house. But I'm not, you know, I wouldn't give my wallet to some family members. It would come back. So what I'm saying is, you know, you understand what I'm saying. You know, it is there, and it is. They are broad categories. When you talk about infrastructure, that's a lot of different things. That's paving streets. That's fixing gutters, and that's doing a whole lot of things. That some of it should be routine, and sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't, depending on the funding that we have. But we have to trust our elected officials, the ones that you chose to represent you in your district, your interests, to make good decisions. And if they don't make good decisions, then you ought to get you a new one. That's plain and simple. Yes, sir, Mr. Dunlap. Glad to see you can make it, sir.
Thank you. I had an experience this past week that relates to the contractors. First thing I did is go to City Hall and inquire of a particular trade that I needed, who had license to operate in Irondale. I ended up with, I think, about 5 of these people. And lo and behold, the business that is literally located in Irondale gave me the best price on the whole deal. So you might be surprised that these businesses that come in from other areas may be a little bit higher than somebody locally.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So shop Irondale. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say something, and that, yeah, don't get upset.
Don't what?
I just wanted to reiterate what has been said many times tonight, is that Facebook can be a poison. If you have a question, ask one of your city council representative, ask the mayor. They're all available. Just call them and you'll get the facts and not the misinformation.
Okay, everybody good? Any questions? Anything we've left out? I don't want anybody to go out here and make up stuff now.
It's recorded.
Ron?
It's recorded.
Yeah, Ron is recording this, and it will be put online. I really appreciate him doing that. It's very helpful. I tell folks all the time, I don't mind being recorded because I like to go back and make sure I said what I thought I said. In actuality, especially when people say that I said something that I didn't say.
Yes.
I love it, so I'm happy to have that. Cal, you had your hand up?
Yeah, is there any way we can get some of these neighborhood groups that can put out a notice in their neighborhood and say, look at this, this is the way it is, because while there's, 100 people or so here tonight, that's peanuts compared to the rest of the city.
Yeah, you're right.
The word needs to get out to the rest
And
of
we've
the
had
city.
some, not a lot, but we've had some. We just had a group from your neighborhood, a whole email list of the neighborhood where Steve lives, that sent in, very nice, they sent in, asked some questions, had some misunderstandings about it. We were able to respond to those. And one of the things I didn't even know, at least one of them didn't know, the one that sent the email, was that we're open 5 days a week. So by the way, it is kind of an aside. And oh, by the way, I think the city ought to be open 5 days a week. We were happy to tell them, yeah, we've been open since January. Let me ask you this, okay? And you may not like this, you may not want to do it, that's fine. You want to do a straw poll right now?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you don't have to vote if you don't want to. So you can vote yes, you can vote no, you can vote undecided, if you really think you don't know what to do. So how many as of right now, you would say, I'm going to vote in favor of the tax? So hold your hand up. Let's get a snapshot. Okay? I want to document it.
That's marketing at its finest.
Can we pan the camera?
Okay? Now, how many of you know that you're going to vote no? You were right. There's one in every group. I was hoping it'd work out that way. I really was. How many are undecided? Okay, fair enough.
Come on.
Fair enough.
How about if you take it before the meeting, how many wanted to vote no? Because
Okay.
they didn't understand, so you'll know how many minds you might have.
Okay,
Change
so
with the
how many of you that said yes now, when you came in here, you were really thinking no?
No, we're undecided.
Or undecided. Okay, so fair. That's fair. Listen, I'm not here to tell you how to vote. I'm here to give you information and to equip you to make the best decision that you can make with the information that you have. That's my goal, okay?
I'm so glad your name's not Facebook.
Remember, the one thing you can't blame on the mayor. This was brought up in the comprehensive plan that we needed to take this approach for our future, number one. And number two, I sponsored this. I brought it up, pulled forward on the resolution, because I felt like, number one, to support the plan, and we haven't had an increase. Now think about this, as a city, with inflation and everything else, in over 20 years.
Could you speak a little louder into the microphone over here?
All right.
20 years.
All right.
Just keep that in perspective.
Good point. Good point, Steve. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate the council taking the position they have. Yes.
I'd just like to say I appreciate everyone came out tonight and encourage you to come to our council meetings. We have a council meeting first and third Tuesday of every month. We start pre-council at 6 and the regular council meeting at 6:30. We'd like for everybody to come because that's how you know what's going on in the city. That's how you get involved, and that's how we know what you want. If you don't tell us what you want, we don't know. And we don't live in every neighborhood in the city. I tell people in my district, I don't live in your neighborhood. And I give them my phone number and my email address. I say, if there's a problem, you come let me know. I try to drive over my district, the entire district, at least once every 4 to 6 weeks, to see if I can see anything going on, and I stop and talk to people. But if you don't tell us what you want, we don't know. And so I encourage you to come to council meetings and let your councilman know what you want and what you need.
Okay, Ron, do you have something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, just to add on that, come to the council meetings, be here, participate in it, and if you can't, the recordings are usually put up a couple of days after the city council meeting. They're out there, available on every piece of social media I can find to put them out there for. They're out there for you, so when you're not able to attend, or you want to get your neighbor to see what's going on, watch the videos. Everything is there.
All right, good, thank you for doing that. All right, so we're gonna
comment there. And one other thing I want to mention is, us council members, we can't talk to each other. We exchange some pleasantries over email and stuff like that, or hey, I'm thinking about putting this resolution on the agenda, but we can't actually have a conversation about those agendas unless it's a public meeting. So sometimes people think we're talking behind the scenes. We actually can't unless it's an open meeting. So a lot of our communication to each other actually happens at those meetings. So it's an extremely, extremely important thing.
Okay, I want to thank you again for taking your time, for coming. Like I said before I got in this office, I made a commitment that if I was in this office that we'd have these kinds of discussions. And so I think it's healthy. We don't always have to agree. You will not see a lot of postings from me on Facebook. I just refuse to get into those debates and arguments, as entertaining as they may be. But you will find my information. I put it out. You got my name there, you got my email address, and you have my cell phone number. And that's what I go by, okay? So you can call up here to the front office, and they'll get a message back. I rarely take calls directly on my office phone, but I take calls all the time on my cell phone. So they'll take a message and get it to me, but if you want to reach me directly, that's the way to reach me, right there. And I will respond to you. So thank you for coming, thank you for being here. I think we have an opportunity, not just to this tax referendum, but we have an opportunity to really make Irondale something special. It's the only reason I got involved in this. I think you probably figured out that I'm not really a very good politician. Because if I were, I'd be talking differently to you tonight. I'd be telling you what you want to hear, rather than what the reality is. So,
good, you're honest.
Well, I try to be, and that's a commitment of mine. So anyway, thank you for being here. I'll hang around if you've got individual questions. Ann, were you just waiting to me? Or?
Charles, can I close with one comment?
Yes.
As the mayor mentioned, in 2 years and 7 months, you have an opportunity to put whoever you want up on that front part. And I've gone up to a lot of people in the audience that have had a lot to offer during a meeting. And when I mention that, they always say, I wouldn't go up there and do what you're doing. And we need people to run. We need a contest. We don't need everything just where people walk in. It needs to be well done. And remember, we all took an oath to do one thing: serve the city, not my district, to serve the city. So hopefully when we're making decisions, it's what's the best for the overall good of our city. And I'm like Charles, I'm a businessman. I am not a politician. I could care less about being reelected. I'm here to do what the best I can do for this city in the time I've got left. And that's the goal.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. If you all sit here any longer, we're going to pass the plates.
Come on.
I
hope everybody got some. If there's a war,